Hi everyone, it's Michelle today from Older Women Rock. Hope you're having a great day today. And peace. Peace. I hope that you're going to get some good vibes today. Older Women Rock, my channel, is about, well, I'm a mature fashionista, so it's about styling, fashion, makeup, beauty, lifestyle, the whole shebang. And we're growing old gracefully and rocking as we're doing it. We're doing it on a budget too. If that's you, jump on board, hit that subscribe button down below there and give me a thumbs up for a like. Today, well, I think it might give you a hint about what my fashion topic is about today. It's about the late 60s and the 70s hippie fashion trend that was absolutely huge at the time. The word hippie comes from the word hipster. We're all familiar with the word hipster these days. Well, oddly enough, hipster or hippie isn't really what we think it would mean. It had to do with jazz music, believe it or not. Hipster came from the 1940s, where people were embracing this new form of jazz and they were getting really excited about it. Those that followed this new form of jazz, this jazz style, were considered to be hip or happening, in the know. So the word hip became basically in the know, hip to what's happening, and that's how we got the word hippie. Today we call the style boho, which is from the word bohemian, which means gypsy. But so let's go back to the late 60s and 70s. Flares, bell bottoms, they were so on trend. Tie-dye, and yes, peace. So you might know it as the counterculture, the flower power movement, the children of the revolution. The times were changing. They definitely were changing. We were going from a much more conservative establishment and to a less conformist establishment. This was happening globally. So the fashion reflected that. The rock bands reflected that. What I find interesting and exciting about this time in history of fashion is it is a fashion that has been, well, it has been passed down sometimes from mother to daughter and now to granddaughter. So we've got 3 and even 4 generations of women that still wear this style of fashion. They might not wear it exactly the same as they did in the 60s and 70s. This is one fashion style that has stood the test of time, and I think that says a lot. That says that it's a loved fashion style. A lot of garments came out of that era and that time, and they're still worn and embraced today. They're still loved today. Today I want to show you a few different garments, and we'll talk about generally about the fashion from the 60s and 70s, what was on trend then, and what is still on trend now from the 60s and the 70s, and how it inspired fashion so much. Absolutely love for you to do is leave me some comments. Please leave me some comments. I want to know, what did you wear? Did you wear the hippie look in the 60s and 70s? Did you have a few pieces at least in your wardrobe? Or did you go all out like I did for a short time and embrace the whole look? I definitely was dressing very hippie style back then. It was all about crochet, it was about handicrafts, it was about tie-dye. Yes, I could tie-dye, and it was macrame, it was embroidery, it was beading. And a lot of the clothing came from India, from Bali later, a little bit from Mexico, and it came from places in the world where they were doing handicrafts and natural fibers. It was all about natural fibers as well, cottons and silks and wools, and they threw those into the mix, you know, macrame bags and crocheted vests and crocheted this and crocheted that. So it all got thrown into the mix, and silver jewelry was so on trend, but in particular the Navajo or the Mexican or the ethnic jewelry. It was really, the whole thing was about ethnic, about natural, getting back to nature, Mother Nature. So any culture that embraced that kind of lifestyle well, that came across as well, and it came into the fashion trends as well. So you would see things from all over the world. Now, don't forget, back then we didn't have anywhere to shop. We didn't have the big malls that we have today with, you know, so many different labels and so many different stores. We didn't have online shopping. We didn't have the huge variety that we have today. So where did I shop back then? Well, I shopped in the thrift stores. Thrifting was absolutely huge because it supported recycling. We didn't call it thrifting back then. We just said we were buying secondhand garments, or later it became known as pre-loved. So it was absolutely huge. So you would buy the garments and alter them. You might dye them or put some embellishment on them or whatever and create your own designs. And we also were buying the garments. So there were lots of stores that did sell these sort of garments, and mostly they were India import. Everything in the shop was from India. There was lots of incense burning and so forth. And also later Bali. A lot of clothing came out of Bali as well. So don't forget to give me comments. I really want to have comments. I'm so interested to know what you were wearing in the 60s and 70s, because I'm sure I'm going to miss lots of styles. You know, I can talk about fringing and suede, but really there were so many different styles that were happening, and I'm not going to be able to remember all of them. So tell me what you were wearing, or if you were wearing any of it at all. And did you get into tie-dye? Did you do it yourself, or macrame, or crochet, or what sort of handicrafts did you get into? And where were you buying your clothing? Just give me some comments all about it, because the times were changing. It was a time of upheaval, and I think they were pretty exciting times, but the fashion changed. The fashion definitely changed. We hadn't seen fashion like that before. In the 60s, late 60s and 70s, we wore a lot of peasant skirts. Peasant skirts were really popular, as well as peasant blouses. This blouse is cheesecloth. I don't know if it's a crinkled cheesecloth. I don't know if you remember cheesecloth. It was incredibly popular because it was a natural fiber. It actually has some crochet inset in the bodice as well. And this was a time for beads, long beads, and particularly wooden beads or earthy beads. The more beads, the better, and it certainly was a time for silver jewelry as well. There were other fashion trends happening in the 60s. In the early 60s and mid-60s, there was a fashion trend called mod. Mod fashion was very different from hippie-looking dressing, very different indeed. Mod fashion was a lot of fun, but it didn't last. It didn't stand the test of time. Mothers didn't pass the mod look on to their daughters, and you don't see people dressing in mod fashion today, or you don't generally buy it in stores today. So who can forget the layered gypsy skirts and the peasant blouses? The peasant blouse was quintessential hippie dressing, because what they were doing was they were drawing on cultures where the people were into handicrafts, or they were peasants. Most of these garments weren't made in China, that's for certain. They were made in India, a lot of them. As I said, flares or bell bottoms were amazingly popular back then, and peasant blouses, but anything with embroidery on it. This is where I get to wear no shoes in this video, and that really, well, I like getting around without shoes inside my house. This is one time I feel quite appropriate not to have shoes on for every outfit. Embroidery. Embroidery was just so popular. Embroidery was on everything. It was on jeans, it was on jackets, it was on bags, it was on boots. Embroidery was so popular. At that time, because these trends and fashion styles were becoming mainstream, they were just really spreading, the top designers got involved. So they decided that they would copy and start manufacturing and producing the hippie look, because don't forget, a lot of fashion comes originally from the streets, hence streetwear. A lot of fashion just comes from the streets. It's people that have their own unique designs and styles, and everybody loves it, so they copy it. And so back then, the top designers jumped in and they were manufacturing this hippie look as well. And of course, maxis. How could we talk about the 60s and 70s fashion without talking about maxis? Yes, and tie-dye as well. I can't remember maxis being in fashion prior to this era. I could be wrong, but I don't recall maxis being in fashion. But once they started, well, they're still in fashion. And that's why I keep saying this 60s, 70s era, this hippie style of dressing, which is boho today, it just spread and it really did stand the test of time, because now maxis are through all styles of fashion. Every style possible, you'll find maxis. They're not just boho anymore or hippie style anymore. Did you favor maxis back then? Let me know in the comments anything you wore and loved during that period. I probably missed out some garments and accessories because it was pretty broad. I also wanted to say, in this time, it was heavily influenced by the rock icons. Very influenced by all the rock icons and the top musos and artists, music artists of the day. How can we possibly think of that era without thinking of someone like Stevie Nicks? Wow, she was so a hippie chick. But most of them were back then. Most of that great music back then, the 60s and 70s, they were all dressing in that style of dress, and they heavily influenced that fashion as well. Floppy hats. Remember the floppy hats? They were so popular. Also made of rattan, the floppy hats. And bandanas. I found a bandana. Bandanas and headscarves were really, really popular. Headscarves made from silk, or bandanas tied around your head, or bandanas used in every way possible. And the floppy hats, as I said, how could we forget the floppy hats? This peasant skirt has little fake coins on it, sewn all the way around it. It's pretty flowy, but that was part of the whole look. Things were loose and flowing. That was part of it, and it's has a crinkle through it, so you wouldn't iron it. Back to the crochet was popular. Belts were often leather and tan. We did see some black, but black was nowhere near as popular as it became much later on. It really was about earthy tones and colors, a lot more so. Browns and tans were much more on trend back then. This pendant I bought recently online. It has stones in there and wooden beads. Chunky one, just to show you that it's still all going on. It's still happening. We might just be wearing it a different way. With this skirt and this outfit, I could have walked straight out of the 70s. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching today. I truly appreciate it. If you've never subscribed to my channel before, go down below, hit that subscribe button. So peace out, guys. I really dig you guys dropping by. I really do dig you guys. Bye-bye now. Hope to see you soon. Really soon. Give me that thumbs up for a like and leave the comments. I really am curious to know, what did you wear in the late 60s and 70s? Did you have some hippie garb or hippie accessories, what you would have thought back then? Did you really fully embrace it, or just little bits here and there? Let me know. I'm always so interested. I so appreciate you guys dropping by.